Shalom, shalom. Thank you so much for being here. We're so happy to see everyone wherever you are in the world. We are going to have a wonderful presentation, a dialogue, and then open up the conversation um, on this topic of the theological and the political, the High Court petition on women's rights to equal access to the rabbinate, to the Rabbanut exams, and what comes next. And Rabbanit Sarah Katz has been at the forefront of this issue and is going to reflect on her work and what has been done, what is happening, what is yet to come. And this is not just there's a sociological conversation, but there's also a halakhic one, a political one. And we're also very pleased to be here also with Rabba Daphne Lazar Price, who is also a great leader and is going to be in dialogue with Rabbanit Sarah. And so let me just give them a little brief intro. My colleague Emma is also going to be here to help facilitate. So Rabbanit Sarah Katz received rabbinic ordination from Beit Morashah in 2016. Beit Midrash for Israeli rabbis, a joint program of the Shalom Hartman Institute and Hamidrasha at Oranim in 2024. At Yeshivat Maharat in 2025. She holds an MA in Jewish Thought from Hebrew University's Revivim program in 2005. She founded the Galuya Center in 2010 and the Galuya magazine website since 2020, an online knowledge center featuring over 3,000 texts on Jewish life. Since October 7th, the site has published hundreds of coping resources and multiple anthologies. She's been providing life cycle mentoring for women and couples for more than 17 years, has published dozens of guidance articles on the subject. She's published research on Din Hargasha, examining the question of trusting women's reports about their own bodies, drawing on data from more than 1,400 Israeli women, as well as an ethnographic article co-authored with Professor Tzipi Ivri on the tension between religion and public health in mikvaot during the pandemic. She's edited more than 10 anthologies, published scholarly articles, op-eds, poetry, and prayers in journals and the Israeli press. She's one of 6 petitioners in a landmark Israeli Supreme Court case filed by ITIM, the Rackman Center, and Kolech, that opened the Chief Rabbinate's halakhic certification exams to women. She headed Kolech's Department for the Prevention of Sexual Assault. Together with Rabbi Tamar Elad-Appelbaum, she co-founded Brit Emunim and the Dinah Partnership, a coalition advancing safeguarding and sexual harm prevention in Jewish communal spaces. She co-founded Forum Advot to pioneer discussions about mikvah rights in Israel, and co-founded Tovlot Benachat, a Facebook community of over 10,000 women advocating for unattended ritual immersion. She served as a Balanit mikvah attendant for 11 years. Rabbanit Sarah, a native Jerusalemite, currently lives with her family in Riverdale, New York. When I was in Riverdale just a few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of talking with her in person. Also, in dialogue today and in support of the program is Rabbi Lazar Price, who is a rabbi, educator, writer, nonprofit leader whose work focuses on Jewish leadership, Orthodox feminism, Israel engagement, and the intersection of Jewish tradition and contemporary life. Ordained by Yeshivat Maharat in 2025 as one of the institution's first 100 graduates, Daphne most recently served as the ED of Jofa, where she led initiatives advancing women's Torah learning, spiritual leadership, and communal participation. Among her signature accomplishments was helping launch the Devorah Scholars Initiative, which supported Orthodox synagogues across North America in hiring women for paid spiritual leadership positions. Prior to Jofa, Daphne spent 17 years at the RAC, and also had leadership roles with the Shalom Hartman Institute and West End Strategy Team. She currently serves as an adjunct professor at Georgetown University Law Center, where she teaches Jewish law. A frequent speaker and published writer, Daphne's work has appeared in the Times of Israel, E-Jewish Philanthropy, and JTA. Raised in a Chabad Lubavitch family in Toronto. I was also raised in Toronto. She brings a lifelong commitment to Torah, Zionism, Jewish peoplehood, and building communities that are both deeply rooted in tradition and responsive to the challenges of the modern world. Daphne lives in Silver Spring, Maryland, with her husband David, and is the proud mother of 2 daughters and a son-in-law. Thank you both for being here. Thank you all for being here. The theological and the political. The High Court petition on women's right to equal access to the rabbinate exams and what comes next. Following your conversation, Emma's going to moderate and open up conversations here. Also be checking the live stream to see if over in the live stream we also have questions or comments. Thank you for being here and handing it over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here. I just want to say that when Rabbanit Sarah and I were preparing for this, we realized that it's like basically the exact 1-year anniversary from the petition from the court decision a year ago, and we actually did a webinar the day after. I think it was the day after the decision was delivered, and it was like a nice, I will say, now bittersweet walk down memory lane. It was a very exciting time. And it was, it was nice to capture the moment now. And I'm excited to capture this moment with you as well, and with everybody who is with us. One of the things that I remember so well, in addition to the excitement, was the language that was used in the court decision that was written by Judge Noam Solberg, when he talked about, in his summarization, he talked about, why shouldn't women be involved in Torah education, Torah leadership, and he compared the whole initiative to Bnot Slavchad, and he talked about the women who were the petitioners as Chachmaniot, Dashaniot, and Sidkaniot. And so it's nice also to be sandwiched in between last week's Parsha and this week's Parshiot, where we also will read about Bnot Slavchad. But I want to really bring the conversation to you, my dear friend, Rabbanit Sarah, and to talk about, your role as the plaintiff, where we are now. But I think we need to do a little walk down memory lane and start with the big picture. Since we're 1 year after the Supreme Court ruling, how are you holding this moment? Does it feel like a victory lap, a waiting game, or something else entirely? If you want to think about what's changed in concrete terms since the ruling, what's surprised you the most over the year, and where you feel there's a gap between the legal victory and the lived reality.
Thank you very much for everyone that's joining us and Uri Tzedek. And I'm very thrilled to sit here and to share my thoughts, my feeling. Really a year, and we're just after Parashat Pinchas and just before Matot Mas'ei. So we're going to talk about Mas'ei, to read about Tzlofchad in Mas'ei, the Bnot Tzlofchad in this Shabbos. So it's really a good time. And a year after the victory, the ruling of the petition, maybe it's a mixed feelings. In a way, it is a legal victory, and there's no doubt anymore that women in Israel had the right to sit to the same exams, halakhic exams, like men, not anymore just in private program. The thing is, in a formal exam that is part of the Rabbanut Institute, the Department of Exam, that it's under the Department of Religious Service, that it's totally part of the formal institutes of the state. So it's not just great idea like Yeshivat Ma'ara that has big influence of the field, but the thing in Israel going in other way because of the relationship, the hyphen between religion and state, and the fact that in 2016 Deri used to be a minister. He's in politics, as we know, and he took a decision to recognize exams in halacha of men as academic points or really degrees. It can be even just part of the exams, not the full journey of the exams. So it made that 2 years later, we started to ask the same rights. I'm going to share about it later. So in a way, we did our job. We asked the state to recognize us. And a year ago, the judge Noam Solberg and the judge Daphne Lazar and the judge Ofer Groskop told there's no any question anymore, and it's supposed to be non-issue from the state perspective, because based on gender, to say that women can't do it is a discrimination, and we can't have it by law. If the exams, they didn't say it like this, but let's say that the exam would be part of an NGO initiative, it's something else. But when it's official by the states, it can be blocked from women. So it still very makes me to feel excited in the way me and my friends were six petitioners, and really, like Rabbi Shmuley said, the ITIM organization with the great law department wrote the petition and did all the job with Rackman Center and Kolech that became to be Kolech lately. We didn't know if we're going to see the end of this story in our life. We had a lot of discussion between us, and we said maybe it is for our granddaughters and grandsons as well, because it's not a struggle just for women. It's the question about society, not just religious society in Israel. It's the whole society and democracy values. When we appealed, the relationship between state and religion was in other place, not so good, but not like nowadays. And we can't believe that it's not even to our granddaughters and daughters, it's us. So it's really good thing. And on the way, I said all the time, I'm a petitioner, and my role by law, it's to do the work to advocate the subject, and I don't have to take the exam, but I want to take exams. I'm not sure if 6 exams, that this is the whole journey or part, but till my dimension, I think I can do some of them, even so that I did it already, and to repeat and do this and to read again, like to exam, not to give answers, halakhic answers in daily life. I want to do it. So now I'm stand a year later with other thing. I know that I already tried to take the exam, and eventually I took the decision not to attend to the exam. I think we're going to talk about it more. But now as well, I already registered to the next exam that's supposed to be in October. So I'm excited from this aspect as well. I think the picture that I just framed tell the story. It is not a maybe normal journey, or maybe totally normal journey of the religious feminism. Basically in Israel, it's totally normal. Maybe this is the phenomena in the world. So I think this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. I didn't start it. We as a group, we didn't start it. Other women and men started it before. You can say it started with Devorah or Miriam or Tzlofcha daughters and others. And we can talk about Regina Jonas and Berta Pappenheim and Henrietta Sold as well. And we can talk about liberal movement, not just Orthodox. But the thing is, things going on and change right now, still, and going to be changed later. So I'm curious what will be. And I know that I just need to hold my breath to do things, to be impatient and impatient at the same time.
I love that. And I think as I'm thinking about metaphors, whether it's a sprint or marathon, I actually think in some ways it's a relay of passing the baton from one to the next, right? Like we are all standing on the shoulders of giants. It's a different metaphor. But I also want to make sure that you own your such important role in this moment and not minimize the impact that you had when you decided to become a petitioner. So I want to spend a moment on what was the exact moment when it became clear to you that this needed to go to court.
The real moment was when my colleague, your colleague as well, Rabbanit Engelberg, and I decided to try and to fill the forms in the website of the Rabbanut that sits on the website of the government. So you need to put some document that you've got a background of high studying of halacha, Beit Midrash, or some program. We had the document. Some recommendation from rabbis, we had it. So we filled it. And we asked to take the exam of NIDA. You can say maybe we just want to check them how they're going to respond, but NIDA, it's my forte, you can say. I love other subjects as well. I'm dealing with it, but I thought that this is the right thing to do, the first step. And it was like so fast. We got so quickly negative answer that just men allowed to take the exams in NIDA. By the way, the one that signed on the answer, she's a woman that served working in the religious department of the state. So together with the ITIM organization, our other colleagues, and I want to mention them, Rabbanit Rachel Keren, Rabbanit Shlomit Flint, Rabbanit Shlomit Piamenta, and Rabbanit Michelle Faber, we decided we need to do it as a group and to ask for this right. It's so basic. You know, in Israel, you just need to be 18 with 3 years of background of studying high halacha level with all this knowledge and take the exams. I think I was in my 30s. Part of us came close to the being 60s, and we thought about the women that are close to 20s. We wanted them to consider the question if to go now to academia and then to consider halakhic studying and taking exams, or the opposite, like religious men do it. First doing degrees with your halakhic knowledge, and then you can go to yeshiva university or other academia. It's not necessarily need to be Jewish, and take your critique perspective in other field. You can do other things as well. We didn't have this chance, so we did it, and we decided that it's not supposed to be like this, and we need to do these steps. So the moment that I got the negative answer in Rabbanit Sarah as well, we understood it, and the ITIM organization led us. But I want to say something. All of us, we went to study in halakhic programs because we wanted. You can say, really, the feeling is ma'avti toratecha kol hayom sichati. And we're still, when we're studying by ourselves or in chavruta or as a group, we feel the excitement. And it's not just excitement of being pioneers because it's a new historic phenomena from the late 20th century. It's more than that. It's just studying Torah. And we wanted to do it. And we wanted to be expert with this knowledge to our life, our couplehood life, our family life, and our community's life. But while we're studying, then we understood the gap between the normal status of men that doing the same and women. And it became to be, we understood that the framing that we're kind of in the dream and the private program that are not recognized by the state. It's not good situation, not to us, because we need to invent ourselves and to find places to teach. And even think about it, midrashot in Israel, it's a private program. Some of the program can be with a budget from the state, because if it's like the age of service, like national service or army, and then they're going to serve, but basically it's a private program. So it's paying for studying in Israel. Now there is more scholarship for that, but after that, what are you doing? I already had my certification as a teacher in MA in Jewish thought, and I was teacher for Jewish field, like Bible, Jewish thought, and Hebrew literature. So why do I need it? And people ask us, and we wanted to be really part of the community, yes, with some authority, because we became to be experts. So in a way, it got to our conscience in our way. There is a moment. And I think it was like a spirit between colleagues, and ITIM really took the role and say, we need to do a step. So we did it.
Very brave. And I love the conversation and the imagery of, we talk about when we plant a tree and it'll benefit our grandchildren. And you thought the same thing also, that when you went ahead with this case, that, who knew how many generations it was going to take to see the benefits. But the fact that it's live in this moment, in our day, it is, it's, I don't know who you can give all the credit to, that there is a wealth of women's Torah learning with a pathway to women's Torah leadership that exists today that didn't exist 25 years ago, even, right? Like, I think, for the two of us, for example, when we made the choice to go into Yeshivat Maharat, I'm a little bit older than you are, but when I was in my 20s, there wasn't such a pathway. And so when they offered this track for advanced women, which could also be age, not just in Torah learning, that we took it. And so for you to create this pathway forward for women in their 20s who, like you said, can decide if they want to do it before going into undergraduate or after, but it's a pathway that's there, which is such a testament to you. But I want to... Yeah.
Maybe I want to add something. I think both of us know really good the Haredi society. We grew up in these circles. So in my childhood, lots of men told me, just because you're a girl, you can't be Talmid Chacham. But if you were born like a boy, you could be a Talmid Chacham. And it was like a flatter, like they thought that they're saying like a positive thing. And kind of, I think I felt I felt like I fed from that. I don't want to hear it more. So it's kind of answered to me, but it's not just my story. We can hear it in some close genre from other colleagues as well. And it's answer for the back, and it's thinking about present and future. And a lot of time I'm telling to my teachers in Israel, for example, it's Rabbanit Sarah, and it can be even blue that now it's America and Israel as well. And it can be even Rabbanit Hankin that maybe she doesn't like really the petition, but they opened us gates and we did other steps as well. And we can still see the price that they paid and we can appreciate it. So it's really a long journey, as we know.
Right. So my follow-up question to that is, to me, it's an incredible thing that we live in a world where there's a state of Israel where Supreme Court justices bring in Torah into decisions. But my question for you has to do with this theme of Benot Tzlaf Chad and whether it resonates with you, whether are we still in a Benot Tzlaf Chad moment? Should we be in a post Benot Tzlaf Chad moment when it comes to advocacy and asking permission and that kind of thing?
First, I was shocked to read it in the decision, like the ruling of and the word that the Justice Noam Solberg put. But when I read it, immediately I remember that close to 5 years before, I sat with Rabbi Riskin that gave me a recommendation to be the inspector of mikvaot in Jerusalem. Never mind, of course, it was a shtick and a man took the role and not a woman. She's the inspector of the mikvaot. I'm not getting inside that story. But while I sat with Rabbi Riskin, he told me that he went with Rabbi Soloveitchik to the funeral of Rabbi Kotler, so many layers. And the rabbis did not give the option to Rabbi Soloveitchik to say hesped. And they told him because he's teaching Gemara to women and it's tiflut. And Rabbi Soloveitchik was in silence, sat and waited to the Hespedim. And of course, they was the whole time of the Levaya. And after that, they went to the car. And just before he came inside the car, he said, like, Rabbi Riskin said, I didn't know if it's to me or to the air, or maybe, to whom that's listening, like, Bnot Tzlaf Chad. And again, Bnot Tzlaf Chad, like he did it with his finger. So I felt like even the prices of Rabbi Soloveitchik and Deep Path, and when the justice Noam Solberg that studied in Har Etzion, so we can see the connection with Rabbi Soloveitchik, I heard it and I thought, wow, it's really interesting because it's really not us. It's just you're a petitioner to represent the public. So it is our story, but this is the situation. So yes, it's totally blind spots that's not supposed to exist. The reason we can say that when the Department of the Exams in the Rabbanut established, no one thought that women will be with the ability to study halacha. So maybe it's not in purpose, but nowadays, how can you still like this? So it's really important, and I think it made us to feel more. Do you see my body language? I think it made us, and it gave us some spirit. And at the same time, I feel now, a year later, that maybe like in this Shabbos, in Parashat Mas'eh, we're going to hear the male side, the boy is going to say to Moshe, but 1 minute, if the Tzlaf daughters, the 5 of them, going to marry men from other Shvatim, we're going to lose our properties. So he's telling, okay, the solution is they need to get married inside the Shevet, but the Rambam said, but it's not like halacha ledorot. It's not for years. It's just the solution for this situation. So in a way, I want to see the future, that when it will be, and I hope that it's really close, that it will be totally non-issue. And we won't need to use the term of tzlofcha daughters. And it will be just a normal situation, like nowadays, when there is question after like tzlofcha that passed away, after fathers, mothers passing away, the question of the families, that it's divided between boys and girls, and there is a halakhic question, and you can hold in some perspective, but the way you don't feel that you need to be a pioneer to solve the situation. So it's really important, and it's part of being pioneering. At the same time, I'm looking forward and that it will be like old news.
I mean, it also demonstrates the importance of, people always challenge motivations. And I think that this just speaks to, being raised in a system and wanting to be a part of the halakhic system and wanting to understand the halakhic system rather than being told what the halakhic system is. And so I think that that is an integral piece of this I shouldn't say this legal battle, which then leads me to my question about the title of this program, the theological and the political. So which is it, Rabbanit Sarah?
I think we need to use maybe an hyphen in here as well. And it's not really sits the same way of the discussion between religion and state in Israel. I'll take it to other perspective. In a way, you can say that any petition in the whole world, it's a politic step. People try to change something in the society. They want it to be in a legal way, then it's formal, and then it can be official. This is the way to do it. And we did it. Why? Because there is an economic benefit to the knowledge of halacha. It's not the question of holding the degree. I'm going to say it now. In the petition, we didn't ask the state to give us the certification, the ordination, to be ordained by the state in Yore Yore. We didn't need a document that it's written, you are a rabbi, Yore Yore, and good luck. We wanted just to achieve the document that we passed the exams. Why? Because this is the step that Deri made. And we said all of us are already ordained by rabbis. And this is really the conservative, the Masorti, really, really way, the historical way in Judaism, that it's part of the community. And people can say, you're going to continue us. And we had it, and it's beautiful. But if there is economic perspective, we wanted to hold the same certification. So this is the way to do things. You're doing politic steps. And I'll say from other perspective, last week, there is a new victory in the High Court, the Supreme Court in Israel. A group of Haredim men appealed against the Rabbanut because they wanted to take the exams in the Rabbanut. And nowadays the systems is managing just on the website. So you need to hold access to internet, and maybe to hold the mobile, that it's not the kosher way of Haredic mobiles. So they said it's not okay, and they want their right is to get all the mails and all the information in other way. So really, really conservative Haredi group appealed to the High Court. They won. And the Rabbanut now suppose and have to send them. You can say it's mail like 80s, 90s, okay, but they deserve it. So it's really important to understand this group probably did not tell them, they didn't say to themselves, oh, how can we do it? We're Haredic, we're not going to the High Court. This is the way to change things. So this is definitely a politic step. But you can divide it from the part of being religious, the knowledge of halacha. This is the law, feeling of belonging to the religious society. And I'll say even, I hope that it's okay, the relationship with God, feeling that like the divine, even the Shekhinah, and all of the meaning of being a Jewish and being part and active in your Judaism. And I can speak just of being Orthodox because this is me. I think that part of the things they're going to say, even my colleagues from conservative movement and reform movement and other movement, we've got lots of movement, right, can feel close and really maybe the same thing. So in a way, it's to ask for recognition from a civil court. It's other way. It's kind of a Yom Chol behavior. But at the same time, as I said, when we read the words of Justice Solberg, we felt that it can bring us back to our life, to our circles, to our community, to feel really more at home. Rabbanit Malka Piotrkowski invented the term Dovrot Halacha, women that can speak halacha really good, like to hold the tools box, not just having a chit chat, being the expert. So it made us to feel like this. And why just the justice use the term of not lefrad? Is it just like a metaphor, like a poetic way? No, because law discourse in Israel sits not just of British and Ottoman part and the Western world, like civil rights, for example. There is the really unique field of Mishpat Ivri, of Hebrew law, that trying to take all of the books, shelves, all of the knowledge that we've got in our heritage and to work with that and to establish our way. So this is the way to have discussion in Israel. I think that when we went and when we, in a way, can feel coming back, even so we never left, we need to say it. We did not do the step of studying halacha and to appeal to the high court without a connection to the phenomena of partnership minyan, egalitarian minyan, women that like leading life circle ceremonies, women that writing new tefillot, new midrashim, like dirshuni phenomena. So we're doing a lot of things, and this is totally the whole picture. If I can add another layer, in the new book from last year, Professor Ronit Irshai and Dr. Tanya Tzion Waldeck, they're using Robert Cover from Brandeis, like his a theory to say high court in the Western world can take decision because they see the society sits there. If they're like, you can't do it, it's tzvat mitzvat asuyah, if I'm going to use the Hebrew way. You can't do it there when there is a gap and to divide between the parts. You need to feel that it's aligned. This is the way that the society live and believe right now. You don't do it, the decision, it's not a pioneering decision. That this is the theory. It's like reflect situation that already is like a normal daily life. But as I said, our petition, for example, made it to be not just in a private way, in a formal official by the state. This is the change. So in a way, as I said, so you can say still, so it's just a politic perspective. No, I think the influence, the potential influence of the petition, some of that we can say that we already feel, and some of them we can say that we will see it later. It's now women are not, of course, in charge just bringing the herring and the, like Manischewitz to the Kiddush, and it's just not, and it's not just even taking the Torah out of their own Kodesh. It's more than that, and not just saying Dvar Torah. It's to hold the authority of the knowledge of halacha. And of course, I think people can think while I'm talking right now about the academia struggle for women and the glass ceiling in medicine, in law, and other fields as well. I'm not saying that we achieved everything in the feminism movement in the whole world, but we can see the connection between of these things. And it's not, maybe it's to break ceiling, but it's not to break the way that we live our life. It's just to be more in our life. And I think the big potential of influence that, for example, women will be, I think, more and more will take the role of being a rabbi of community, maybe in a partner with other rabbi and maybe by themselves. In America, it is existing. In Israel, we've got in Orthodox society just 2 communities that led by women. And even in Israel, communities' decision of like this, it's part of private decision and private budgets. But when you hold a formal documents, certification, it makes the community to believe and to lose the suspect perspective and really to listen to you, even when it's halakhic knowledge, and even if it's about the parasha or the high holidays, for example. So I think the influence is going to be wider, and it's really to stand before God and to feel more I'm part of the world that created. Not talking about 6 and 7 days. I'm talking about like chachamim and the layers, and I joined that. Even so, I can read sometimes in the Torah, in the Mishnah, in the Gemara, till the Achronim, part that makes me to feel not so comfortable from the values perspective, but I'm not telling myself I'm not going to cooperate with it. The opposite, all of us, I think this is the phenomena, joining and trying to be part of and to be with our obligation and change it in the frame, not change the frame. So I think we need to hold the understanding that there is a political side and there is theological side, and maybe it makes us to feel more like the faith is more deep or high and wider because we've got a place. And really, really in a deep and personal part, I think it can change the way of how do we do our private davening parts and how do we hold these parts in our life. I think it's too intimate to have this conversation right now, but maybe we can have in a few years, we can see the change when you feel more at home. And it's kind to have a hug and to say, yes, you're a part of us. And even we want you here. And we want that leaders will be men and women as well.
I mean, I don't want to go down this tangent, but I do want to name also that there's other Knesset bills that are currently in process, separate education and higher learning that's being driven by the Haredi community that, on the one hand opens up tremendous education and economic opportunities for people in the Haredi community who wouldn't take advanced degrees because they'd be in a co-environment, but there's the concern of the slippery slope that it'll just lead to like more separate gender segregated spaces in places where they don't have to be, and the erasure of women and limited opportunities for women, for example, who may want to teach in the male college and tenure track and all of that. So that's one concern. And the other piece of legislation that's always on my mind is the Kotel agreement, and creating even less gender parity at the Kotel and what that does to the pluralistic community also. And so in that way, it's also really important to have women Rabbaniot who have the knowledge and who can say, this is halakhic and this is not, and this is political and this is not, and this is theologic or this is cultural norm and this is not, and how that changes the equation also. So there, everything you said, and maybe one day we'll have a comparative conversation over women's leadership in America and in Israel, and how one influences and impacts the other in both directions, because I think that there's a lot to learn from both sides and also barriers to recognize on both sides. But I want to come back to this conversation. Whoa. And so like I want to come back to like where we are, or I guess like what happened since all of the confusion with the testing, and then what happened on the day of the exam that was held here back in April. And also if you want to speak to, you mentioned that you didn't participate, but if you want to talk about why you didn't take the test in this moment.
Thank you. I think when I'm going to answer you right now, it's going to reflect the thing that you just said. Because immediately when we won, it wasn't so immediate because you and I sat in this conversation like day after the victory, the ruling. Mm-hmm. But a few days later, when we wanted to register to the exam that's supposed to be Acharei Chagim, it's always the time of exams in the Rabbanut. It's after the Chagim of Tishrei, around Pesach, before or after, and the Ben Azmanim, the time that we are now between like Shlosh Shavuot and Rosh Chodesh Av, or Av and Elul. So like summertime, autumn, fall time, and springtime. So we wanted to take the fall time, and the option to register to the exam disappeared from the official website of the Rabbanut that sits on the website of the government. And the meaning is that the exams became to be blocked to men and women as well. Kind of the mistake that Amram did, and Miriam like called him, don't do this mistake. And maybe it's the Paro like perspective. And it was like this since September till February. In February, the gates opened to register. Probably the law department of the religious service department said, we can't do it anymore. We've got to live by the law in the state. So they opened the option, and 7 women register. I'm part of them. 6 for a Velus exam, and I'm for NIDA. And when we did it, we got automatically reply that, okay, your forms, you just filled it, but it's not an answer from the Rabbanut. It's like automatically answer, as I said. We know that men got, not a long time after that, more information about the exam. We didn't hear nothing till 2.5 weeks before the exam. Yes, it was a part of Iran war in the meantime, but we didn't know when it will be the exam. For example, because I live abroad right now, when I registered, I bought a ticket to May because it was like Chodesh Iyar. This is the time. And after the war, I couldn't really make it to be earlier because, other people waited in line. They was stuck out of Israel. So I had to buy another ticket, and other problems became because they took people out of the plane because they had to put others. So this is like just technical thing that I'm saying. But we heard just 2.5 weeks, a day after the war stopped. So there is a connection that the exam will be in the Congress Center in Jerusalem, Binyanei Ha'uma, well known as Binyanei Ha'uma. This is the place in the last few years, because thousands of students coming to take the exams in a year, 13,000 people doing the exams. Sometimes it's the same person that doing 3 times a year, other subject, okay? But they count it like this. So they had to carry the people that want to take the exams in the fall and the spring as well. And they wrote us that we're going to sit in separate class. It's just referred to the thing that you just raised, women class. And we said all of the petition, like the journey, we said, like in the years of the petition, we said, we're not going to argue if they're going to put us in other exam. Even so, that I studied in private halakhic program for women, but there is Orthodox halakhic program for men and women as well. In academia, of course, I went to non-separate program, just a normal way. But we said we're not going to argue. Eventually, a few days later, they told us it's going to be we're going to take the exam not in the same place, in other place. And this made me to understand that there is a problem. First, during the trial, there was few discussion and some ideas. And the Rabbanut said, you know what? You want to take the exams, don't do it through us. Go to the labor department and do it like being inspector of kindergarten or electricity things, etc. And we said, but separate is not equal. We don't want you to do like a pink wash. We don't want you to give us the pink path. We want the same, because even if you bring us the same form, when you're going to fill it and the same people going to check it, you'll say that it's other condition. You can make it to be under the suspect perspective. We don't want it. We want it to earn the same rights. So they just made it when they announced it, that we need to sit in the Department of Religious Service that sits, in a good traffic hours, less than 10 minutes by car, even 5 minutes. And I said to myself, they didn't rent a hall behind Binyanei Ha'uma of the Hilton, now it's Vert, like hotel. There is a hall there. There is classes. They can do it. They went to official department with a heavy security, with a good reason for a heavy security, because this is the Department of State. So if we'll have a problem inside, who will know about it? Who's going to reach and to help us? How we're going to solve it? There is a question already when it's supposed to be just a separate class, if we were going to have the same papers, the same notebooks, the same time, the same quality of silence, for example. But in other place at all, it's taking us to separate an unequal situation, and the feeling was that this is a trap. And I have
also just to add that it takes away from the anonymity, right? Like when people sit down for the Rabbanut test, they don't write their name on a notebook. There's like a code. And so if you're in a separate place, you know that those notebooks came from the women and not from the men.
Right. So I felt, Mimele, I've got so many problems with the tickets. And do I need to show up in this, that it's not okay? And we as a petitioner, for example, we didn't cooperate with Asar Matan Kana when he was a minister, Matan Kana, and he made the private exams in his department. We as petitioners with the ITIM and Rackman and Kolech, we said we can't, because this is not our struggle. And really, it's not the same document that they hold right now, the women that passed this exam. So I felt that because I'm like the link is that I'm a petitioner and a woman that want to take the exam, I can cooperate with that. And I told my colleagues, my friends, dear colleagues, that they really love, and I think they love me too. We're really close, and we came to understand more each other. I said, "Be'atzlacha, good luck in it, but I can't cooperate. I can understand the feeling, the historic moment that gates going to be open for women, but this is not specifically the struggle, and we want it more. And I hold the horizon, I hold the view that we need to believe in it. Unfortunately, all the questions that I asked immediately after we got the mail with this change take a place in reality. And I'll say even eventually, the exams, after the women took it after 5 hours, went out in a box that it's written, Women's Hall, exams in Avelus and Nida. I didn't.
Well, let's take a step back and let's talk about what happened on the day of the exam, because I think that's a really important piece of the story and goes to show the intentions of the powers involved.
So my colleagues, Rabbanit Sarah, Vidman Samuel, that studied with us, ordained in Marat last year, and Dr. Ruth Agiv and Rachel Tzaban, we wanted to take the exam like it was 7, we became to be 4, and then it became 3 because my decision. And they came to take the exam, got inside the building of the service, the religious service department, sat and waited for the exams, got the notebooks, and the exam did not start officially. The forms were there. It was kind of shtick. They can't do it. And then they told them, the rabbi that needs to attend and give your answer to clarify your question about the question that's written on the form can't come. There is like a traffic jam, like this kind of thing. So it took a time till they like sat, couldn't do anything. No one knew what's going on. Even the law department of ITIM sat outside. After a while, they got the permission to, when you touch a mobile, when you touch the phone, you can say maybe it's not an honest and clean exam. So they got the permission. They called, and it started to be a process with the High Court that eventually forced the Rabbanut to give the women the right to make the exam. But it took almost 5 hours, and no rabbi from the team that wrote the exam attended. The chief rabbi, the Ashkenazi chief rabbi, Rav Kalman Ber, said, okay, if the women has question, like I want them to call me as a group and I'll answer by phone. So it's totally not the same condition. They started already after the men finished, probably totally exhausted, not just because of hours, all the feelingless, it was so hard. And they did the exam. And as I said, it went out in a box that we still have the question, what happened with the notebooks? Answers about the exams came kind of 2 weeks ago, and Dr. Ruth Agiv passed the exam. I hope that the others too going to get a new grade and they're going to pass it. I thought the Rabbanut will take a responsibility and will say, we didn't give you the same condition, so we need to add some points to that because it's our fault. They didn't do it, and I still believe they will do something like this because there is a price because of the not equal condition if you compare it to the men. And I do hope that the next date will be without any shticks. They can use not these shticks, new shticks, but I think the High Court did some step. There was afterward the committee in the Knesset that now behave like the inspector of checking what's going on. And we need to believe in the law of the system. So I hope that they won't do it. From my perspective, I want not to sit in a separate class because I think this is open, the potential of this behavior. And I'm not saying that they need to put a mechitza in the big hole, but we can sit like as a group in some point and the others. And if it will be another discussion like in academia today, yesterday, last week, men need to close their eyes when they see women, we need to have a discussion. But now in Israel, you don't have to separate between men and women when it's not dvarim shebakdusha. It's not religious life when people can choose. It's totally formal. It's about studying. So if you want to separate, it is a discussion. And this is the thing that I hope that it's not going to be like an influence from one subject to this subject, and they will separate us because all the problems will appear again. So I want to add other thing. While you spoke before, I remember that it's now more than 30 years, 35 years from the petition of Nashak for women to be part of religious committees. And now there is women that are part of religious committees. Maybe they're not the same, hold the same perspective, like my friend in Chavruta, Rabbanit Sarah, but it's good. This is the democracy, the plural way of seeing. This is the feminism way. We've got a lot of way how to do it. And she struggled a lot. And if you and I would say, like we were younger, like 10 decades afterward, it looked like it's not really a victory. But now you can say it is. And by the way, Leah became to be Rabbanit a few years ago, and it's like to participate to this phenomena of really to hold the extra-potential and to halakhic tools box, and she joined to other halakhic programs. So we've got lots of path that we're doing, and eventually it's the whole picture, as you said. And I'm thinking about the mikvaot that just was in the news because the Sephardic chief rabbi that was part of the people that didn't want us to take the exam, he said as well about, it's a decade petition. There is already victory of the right of women to dip by themselves, not just with Rabbanit, like the mikvah lady. They can say, I wanted to do it by myself. And he wanted to take it back and to force women to have like the lady that need to be the inspector of the tevila. So we can say he didn't succeed. He just said things. Nothing would change by law. So we can say that we've got a lot of petition that is part of the phenomena of religious feminism. And as we know, you said about the Kotel is, for example, it's not part of the Orthodox feminism, like that it's the mikvahs look like part of that, and the Toanot and Shomrot Kashrut, these petitions. And I think they ask, and we can have other discussion between politics and theology. I think they wanted just to come in Rosh Chodesh and in daily life and just to have a normal davening way in their way. And there is already a decision, but it's not really part of daily life in Israel. So we can be with this wheel. There is a halakhic wheel even for these issues. And we can say that maybe part of the discussion is a backlash, part of that you need to hold, like be impatient, as I said, and impatient at the same time, and to see development of this discussion. Long answer to your question.
Yes, but perfect. I guess I just want to close up. I'm just looking at the time, so I want to be mindful. I want to look ahead if we can. I always joke that I smashed my crystal ball in March of 2020 because who could have pictured what was going to be with the pandemic? So I know that we don't have actual nevuah, but looking ahead, what does success look like from here? If we were when we sit here together next year and revisit 2 years ago and this year, what do you hope to say happened in the year?
I want to be optimistic. I can feel and think sometimes in pessimistic way, but I do behave in optimistic way because this is faith, and I do believe in this mission. So, for example, in a year from now, I hope to my colleague, Dr. Ruta Give, that we'll pass more exams. She's going to take another exam during the fall. So I hope for the spring and the summer, and like to hold 4 exams that she passed. So she needs just to do more 2 exams and to feel, okay, I'm equal to men like this. Even so that they said in Israel, you can take some position, official position, just even, for example, with 3 exams. But I can think about her, really particularly about her. And I think it's going to, like this picture can hold wider picture. The meaning is more women took the exam and probably passed the exams. So it's important, and the numbers is going to be like growth. It will be more. So I think going to normalize the situation. I want to be optimistic about that. I want to think at the same time that suddenly we'll hear that some communities said, oh, we don't need just to take a responsibility about Megillat Esther time and Simchat Torah's time. We wanted women to be more involved, and we just decided that some Morat Halacha Orthodox women rabbi will join in the authority position with the rabbi just by herself. I don't know. So I can think about this influence. I can think about other things. I think it's going to bring some prestige in other organizations, communities, institutes. So maybe we'll hear more of really being inclusive with women that's taking some roles. And I want to think that women will have more time, not just to struggle to get inside the program and to study and to hold the new language. They will have more time and confidence to write more halakhic piece and to put their perspective. I think part when we don't have the official recognition, you always ask yourself if you are real, if you are okay. So I think it's going to help the confidence of each woman in this phenomena. I think there is another thing that when girls in high school really studying seriously Talmud and going to Midrasha, I think that's all. Now, after that in Israel, after national service or army and in America and abroad, other thing as well, like in the diaspora, it can be other thing in academia, they will consider it. They will see it as a view, and the parents will believe that there is a view and it's not a waste of time because they can get salary and they can work very seriously in this field. So I'm totally optimistic. I know that this is a marathon. I know we've got some scars from the last year. I don't know what will be really in the near future, but I can hold my belief, and I hope that you hold with me.
Amen. Wow. Thank you. Rabbanit Sarah. I think I'm going to pass this off to Emma and Rav Shmuley. And I want to thank Orla Tzedek for holding this conversation and inviting people to participate in it, to listen in. And thank you.
Thank you so much for that amazing discussion. And thank you everyone who joined us, who spent their afternoon learning with us. We have less than 2 minutes, so if anyone has a quick question, we might be able to get to it. So you can unmute now or put it in the chat quickly if possible. If not, I also put the link to our link tree in the chat where you could see our other upcoming classes and come. Yes. Hello there.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do. I don't want to waste your time lauding how wonderful this was, because you know it was, and we're very grateful. Is anything coming not just for women, but for pluralism and recognition of pluralism in the Israeli courts? In the United States, a conservative female rabbi or a conservative rabbi can do a conversion, and you know that's another issue with not just a feminist issue, but a humanitarian religious issue that I'm concerned about, and I wondered if there's any talk among yourselves about that.
Wow, great question, and nice to meet you, Rabbi Shulamit. I know that it was the 40th year of the conservative movement for ordained women, and I know all about this occasion, and I really thank to all of the process in the Jewish world of seeing women and make women to be part of the society. I think it's wider discussion, and I think there is understanding between the movement of the difference between of them. And your question meet me in a way I'm shocked, because I never thought about it. I never had this discussion with my colleagues, being part of the committee of conversion and do this step. ITIM, the organization that led and wrote such a great petition, the text and doing all the job, the law department, holds Giyur K'Halacha. This is a private way of doing Giyurim because of the problem of Rabbanut, of this process. And even so, none of us, the women and the men as well, thought to ask are the women going to be as rabbi part of that? Maybe you just made me to go back to my circles and to bring it, but maybe it's a normal process that will be this discussion. And I do think that maybe this is part of the frighten of our petition and all of our journey in change, that in our daily life, Orthodox women rabbi in really good relationship with the pluralistic field. And we can say we're not doing the same practice daily life. We're not holding really, really specific, the same even Jewish thought. I don't know, it's not values, it's perspective, because it's not values. But we can understand each other and love and admire and even use like new prayer for Brit that other rabbi wrote that are not Orthodox. So I do think that the open heart and the open minds make people that wanted to be more narrow Judaism to feel the fear. And we hold the belief that we need to think more pluralistic and more open. So it's not my struggle, for example, to give the option for the liberal movement in Israel to use the official mikvahs of the state for conversion. But when I sat in the discussion in the Knesset, and the decision took just about deeping for halacha for kala and married women and not about the conversion, I felt that it's not okay. I felt that the official mikvahs of the state supposed to be open to any conversion, and it's other discussion, is the state recognize it as a conversion or not? And I have my opinion, but the block mikvahs, I felt it's like to close shul. Who's closing shuls for people? So just, I want to thank to your question. I'm going to walk with that and to bring the voice echo to my friends.
I understand. It's the value of who is a Jew and are we all Jews, and respect for that. And I know that's not your forum, but that's very dear to my heart. And congratulations on all the progress you're making.
Thank you. Thanks.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Sorry to go a little bit over time, but it's been great to learn with you all. We hope to see you next time. Thank you again and have a great day.
Thanks, Ulet Tzedek.
Thank
Bye
you,
bye.
Tzedek.
Shavua tov.
Thanks, Daphne.